So welcome back, guys, and today we are looking at fonts and adding type on custom text using the text tool to add type to your artwork. So what we have here is a simple background, and we're just going to add some text to it. And to add text in Photoshop is very easy. You look on your left hand side for the type tool and you'll see this capital T. Now in it you'll see a little black arrow at the bottom here, and if you click it you'll see the hidden tools that are within the type tool, right? So it's horizontal type tool, vertical type tool, and mask. We'll go on to masking in a later tutorial, but now we're going to stick to horizontal type tool. And basically when you click anywhere on the artboard, it adds an automatic layer for you, right? So we could just type here welcome, and in this now we could change the font style. So we could highlight it, and in the drop down menu at the top in the options bar we could go through our fonts and choose, right? So let's look at let's go to Helvetica. So we can type HEL and it'll jump to Helvetica, and let's choose Helvetica Medium. Now Helvetica New is the font style, but the weighting is your second drop down window here. So we could change it from condensed black, ultra light. We can see what that looks like. Ultra light italic and bold italic, right? So we'll keep it at let's go to bold, in fact, right? And to increase or decrease your text size, we could go to the drop down menu here, but this only goes up to 72. We could also type in a value here, so we could type in 700. And also one of the easier ways is using the scrubbing method by mousing over the text icon, the type icon, and going to your right for a bigger font and going to your left for a smaller font, right? So here we could just increase or decrease the font size, and we can move it about like this. Now let's say we want to change the color of our font. Now we could highlight it, and again in the options bar you could see here that it has a little rectangle with the color currently in your type, right? So we could double click on it, and in your color picker we could choose exactly what color we want, right? And use this rectangle slider up and down to choose whatever color we want, right? Now let's say we want to match one of these greens here, or maybe this exact color green. All we have to do is mouse over, and you see this little eyedropper icon appears. We could then click it, and it changes to that color, that shade of green, right? So whatever green we choose here, we could select that exact color here. So let's go with this dark color here for now, although I personally hate green. So now we have welcome here. Now if we want to change this to capital letters, we'll probably have to, in another program, delete it and type it back in with caps lock on a whole shift. But what we could do here is go into our window and click character, and in the character palette that pops up we could see here Helvetica New bold, and you would see the lettering and tracking options here. Now we're not going to go to lettering and tracking today, but it's pretty simple. So we could just hit this icon here that says all caps, and it switches the font to all caps, right? So immediately it changes to all caps. However, right, moving forward, let's say we add another type, and we type let's say menu. It comes up as all caps automatically, no matter if my caps lock is on or off on my keyboard. So it's something to keep note that this remains on by default, right? Once you clicked it on initially. So take note of that, and we could deselect it, and it'll switch back to how you originally typed it, right? So let's look at adding, you know what, let's stay with menu, and let's change the bold to light, just to show you the difference with the weighting of the fonts, and maybe the size, so we could scrub it up and down. Another way of increasing or decreasing the text size is by holding Control Shift and hitting the full stop, and it will increase your text size. You can see it going up there to 524, 537, 540, or decreasing by using the comma. So we decrease by the comma and increase by the full stop, right? That is an easy way of doing it, but personally I like scrubbing. It's faster, and that way we could quickly get to the size that we want, right? So let's change it. Let's say welcome to our menu, right? And we could change this font color to white, probably, by using the color picker. Now again, decrease the size right about there. So now you can see that we have two layers that have different colors. Now personally I like the white, but however the white is kind of hard to see on this background because it's so bright on the left hand side here, but a nice contrast is happening here. So to keep my white and to increase contrast, what I could do to enhance the readability of this is to add a drop shadow. And to add a drop shadow to text is pretty simple. We need to look at the layers panel, and at the bottom of the layer panel there's this FX icon, and it's basically the layer styles. So you could add these to any types of layers, but for now we are in type, so we'll stick to type. So I'm gonna click the FX icon and go to drop shadow. And when I hit drop shadow now, you could see that a preview box is checked, and you can see that there's a very slight drop shadow that is added to our text, and if we increase the opacity it gets darker. Now let's say we go up to about 70, and then we can play around with the distance. The distance would adjust the distance of our text. See? So now we have distance here. Spread is how big our drop shadow is, so we can increase it to about there, and the size increases the blurriness of our text, right? So right about there. Now the drop shadow is a little too bright for me, so I'm just going to bring it back down to about 50 there. Now the light, if you notice, the light comes from this point here and casts a shadow to the bottom left hand side. Now we could change the direction of the shadow by using this angle icon here, and as we use it you could see that the shadow changes. So we could go like right about here, right, and hit OK. And now we have here welcome to our menu that is in green, and to our menu has a drop shadow with the white. Now the welcome doesn't really have a drop shadow, but that's fine. We don't really need to put it on all, but having the drop shadow there really highlights our text in a nice subtle way. Now we could have extreme drop shadows by, you know, increasing the harshness of it by, first off, increasing the opacity and probably the spread, and get that dark look, which is kind of overpowering in my opinion, unless it's a look that you want to achieve eventually. So I'm going to cancel it, and we go back to the subtle look where we have a nice subtle drop shadow here. So let's continue adding text, and let's see another text effect we could add. So let's let's type something what's usually on a menu, like lamb, although lamb is terrible. So this is Helvetica again. We could we could go to bold, and yeah, let's keep it there. And again, we will just put lamb here, and this time, instead of adding going over and re-add the same drop shadow, you can see that in our layers palette here, that the one that says to our menu, we can see that there's an effects drop shadow that is added to the layer itself. And if we were to switch this eye off, the eyeball icon, we could turn the drop shadow on or off, right? So this is for all effects. So if we were to add another effect here, right, let me demonstrate. So we could go to, let's see, bevel and emboss, right? That will create a very tacky effect here, right? So we could get that kind of metallic look, a chisel look on our text, and hit OK. And now you can see there are two effects here. Now we could turn off the bevel itself by clicking the eyeball, and it still leaves the drop shadow, or we could turn off both by just hitting the eyeball icon next to the effects word. So we're gonna take this off because I don't like how it looks, and we can even click and drag it down into the bin to delete it. Now if we want to copy the same drop shadow to our lamb text, we can select it, select our layer, and then hold Alt on the keyboard, Option on the Mac, and you'll see a double arrow up here. And now we can just drop it onto the lamb layer, and in that we get the same effect, same amount of drop shadow as we would at to the top, right? And now we could even go into the effects itself by double clicking the drop shadow on that text and checking it off. And now we could even add something like an inner shadow, which is a little different. And the inner shadow basically puts a shadow like a cutout. Let's try and create that cutout effect here, right? So it looks like, yeah, that's about it. Yeah. Right, so it looks like you actually stencil out into this surface to put in the text. Now this could be further enhanced and look even more realistic by using the paintbrush tool and some contrasting effects, but for now this is basic text effects here, right? So now we can even turn off the layer visibility here and move along with our type, right? Now let's look at our tracking and kerning, right? So let's go back to our welcome, and for example we want to increase the tracking on our welcome font. So we need to select it first. What I did there was double click to highlight the whole word, and we could decrease the size first, so we'll have enough room to track, and we can now scrub left or right and increase the tracking here. So let's go even further down, right? So you see the difference. By using this subtle effect, we create a nice spaced welcome, right? That could change the feel of your artwork by simple tracking, and that is just being used here as a scrubber on the tracking icon here in your character palette. So you could experiment with type, text, and even if you wish, experiment with things like the gradient overlay in your text for now, but we will be going into the effects icon and layer styles in another tutorial. So thank you, and looking forward to seeing you again.